Today I finished reading If Not Winter, Fragments of Sappho, translated by the wonderful Anne Carson. Now first of all, this is as much Anne Carson's book as it is Sappho's. You can almost immediately tell from the introduction's opening. The introduction itself, in my humble opinion, is a fucking masterpiece. I mean, if you've read it, you know what I mean, because Anne Carson is able to do this weird balancing act of being incredibly professional and erudite, but also be laugh out loud funny. And I would share with you the last paragraph of Anne Carson's introduction, but I don't want to spoil it for you in case you ever go for yourself and read it. So what I want to do is read just a little bit where she talks about her use of brackets to indicate the empty spaces on the papyrus. And for context, this is what a fragment of Sappho's looks like. I emphasize the distinction between brackets and no brackets because it will affect your reading experience if you allow it. Brackets are exciting. Even though you are approaching Sappho in translation, that is no reason you should miss the drama of trying to read a papyrus torn in half or riddled with holes or smaller than a postage stamp. Brackets imply a free space of imaginal adventure. Oh my God! Anne Carson took Sappho and bound her. In a music no one had yet found her. But I wanted this deal, my small happy meal, to come with one more quarter-pounder. It wasn't enough, man. I wanted more. I feel like there was only 3 nearly whole poems, or maybe 4. And the rest are like scattered fragments, man. I'm still hungry. I need to get my lunch on, bro. So yeah, that's the tragedy of Sappho. And Anne Carson really makes you feel this tragedy in the introduction. I mean, as she says, all of Sappho's music is lost. Out of like 9 books, well, only this remains. And we only have one of her poems in full, which is the first poem in this book. That fucking sucks, man. While reading, it occurred to me that the reading experience was like trying to remember a dream in the morning and it coming back to you in fragments, but you knowing that there was some profound truth or some profound experience in the dream, and you're trying to get back to it, trying to reverse engineer the path back to that central moment. That's what it's like trying to read Sappho's Fragments. It's like the broken dreams of one of the most poetic women in literature. But I guess now we have one of the greatest modern female poets reviving her, resurrecting her from the dead. And on top of this, Anne Carson provides some of the best notes. These notes won't just make you laugh and exhale through your nose while reading. They will make you literally wheeze, like a literal that's how cheeky and mischievous and funny and weird and idiosyncratic and odd Anne Carson is, compared to, say, the flatness of most male translators. Not to unduly bring sex into the matter, but, and I think the reason for that is that Anne Carson writes not just for us, but she writes for all of time. She writes for the scholar 2,000 years from now in 4020 AD, who will be reading her like she is reading Sappho 2,000 years ago, 2 millennia ago. And I think she's thinking timelessly like that, as it seems Shakespeare was thinking. These are timeless artifacts of a culture that people thousands of years from now could benefit from. And she comes to the forefront and brings that nobility to her words. Unlike so much academic writing out there, where it's just a word vomit onto the page, and you get, say, this disorganized word salad that no one really has fun reading, and so time is not going to have fun reading it as well, and so it won't survive to get to that 4020 AD. Now, I mostly love this book, but as I said before, there's not enough meat to love. And in the fragments where all we get are crumbs, a reader at times feels malnourished. And I think this is why it might be a little difficult for some more lay readers to get into. It's like a 2 in terms of difficulty, but not for what's on the page. It's what's lacking that makes it difficult. I mean, you go through some of the fragments and it's kind of like, all right, that's cool, but this is just one word. What's the point of keeping it when the lay reader can't really get anything out of it, and only like esoteric enthusiasts and biographers and ancient Greek scholars can get anything out of it. But I do think if you have compassion for the past, there is meat to be gained from the aggregation of all of these smaller fragments. But I had two tips that helped me while reading SAPPHO's Fragments, and that was, first, inject the brackets with gibberish to let a feeling fill its claws, because I think this book's ideal reader is one who brings an active imagination to fill the brackets with, and not anything definite, but just, say, a vague feeling. It really helps while reading it. And the second piece of advice was treat the 1-word, 2-word, 3-word fragments like whispered insights into what SAPPHO cared about, the themes she cared about. For instance, the fragments will tell you that SAPPHO is a very desirous woman, and she was very fond of Aphrodite, and she maybe had what we might call today a foot fetish. And talking about gibberish, the title, If Not Winter, will help me push this point home. Now the title itself, If Not Winter, fucking beautiful, man. This is like a 4 out of 5, bro. Hands down. Now let me tell you why. It comes from fragment 22, and this is where it really clicked for me that you have to inject this kind of emotional gibberish into the brackets. It goes, work, face, if not winter, no pain. Oh, beautiful. Instead of sentences, we get pieces of thought that we can weave together if we wish. Now, an example way this could be weaved together, what I was thinking of when I first read it was, put on your work face. Show me your war cry. No. Put on your work face. If not winter, something, something, no pain. Or say, do the work, don't turn your face from it. If not winter, but work, and then comes no pain. Just an example how these can be tied together. Now, I don't want to spend a lot of time here because I want to look a little bit closer at some of the poems in the beauty, originality, and wisdom section. But there was this funny fragment in which you could say that SAPPHO predicted the slang term drip in terms of clothing. When you say to someone, that guy's fucking dripped out of his mind. No, that guy's got drip or something. Oh, bro, I'm a fucking boomer, I don't know. I just found it funny that SAPPHO predicted this modern usage. Fragment 119 goes like this. Cloth dripping. Now, once you're informed with all of her other fragments, you understand that SAPPHO is probably talking about a woman, maybe a young girl, and SAPPHO is very desirous for her, and it's this dripping nature of her clothes that is just shocking SAPPHO out of her mind. And dripping is also a Greek metaphor for pain. Concerning the themes of SAPPHO, the first thing that will make you love SAPPHO is her erotic suffering with unrequited love. I mean, she just suffers with it. It makes you think if Goethe's young Werther had SAPPHO, he wouldn't have, I mean, the theme of Eros is like the godhead for SAPPHO. This is the planet that she interminably orbits around, playing her lyre for days and nights. In my memory, all I remember is Aphrodite, Eros, parodies of Homer, chickpeas. They're the main themes of SAPPHO. Right, now I'm gonna zoom through this. What can a reader learn from SAPPHO's Fragments? Well, myself, what I learned was a sort of meta lesson, one not imparted by the text, but imparted by the experience of the text. I learned to have gratitude for all the intact poetry that has come to us whole. And it's probably very likely that that bastard who started the fire of the Alexandrian library is the one that lost a lot of the Sapphic texts for us. That motherfucker. What can a writer learn from SAPPHO? Well, be concrete. This is evidenced by the fact that SAPPHO scorns abstractions because maybe abstractions are devilishly hard to sing. Advice I sorely need. Now, if we had to talk about the technicalities, the form, the prosody of SAPPHO's Fragments in this book, we have to talk about Anne Carson because this book is dripping with Anne Carson's textual flavor. And she said in the introduction that she's tried her hardest to stand out of the way, use plain language so that Sappho might show through. But she also says that this is an amiable fantasy, transparency of self, which most translators strive to attain. And she has also taken these super interesting liberties in the text under the principles of Walter Benjamin, in which Anne Carson says she's taken poetic license in things like lineation and meter to, as she says, try and imbue the fragments back with some semblance of musicality, to try and revive them with the music they were originally written inside of. And she says in the introduction that this is a license undertaken in deference to a principle that Walter Benjamin calls the intention toward language, which is a really interesting idea, and one I think is central to all translators everywhere. This is what you should be always aiming towards, to try and get the original author's intention towards the language, the effect they were trying to achieve in their poetry, and to try and take as much poetic liberty in the target language you need to reproduce that effect, which is obviously very hard. But all that said, Anne Carson has stated that she has tried to put the same thoughts in the same order as Sappho did herself. And this little fragment will snap it all together and make you realize what she's saying. Fragment 130. Eros, the melter of limbs, now again stirs me. Sweet, bitter, unmanageable creature who steals in. Now, sweet, bitter is, of course, bittersweet. But as Anne Carson said, she wants the same thoughts in the same order as Sappho put them originally. And originally it is sweet bitter. And of course, the original text of Sappho's didn't have any brackets or em dashes, but here Anne Carson has put brackets and em dashes. And again, this is the intention towards language. The secret inside of the ancient Greek words carry intentions that cannot be reproduced simply by using the English words. And so to reproduce that intention, she has deemed to put in the brackets and also the em dash. Another thing is, I would be jealous over her writing if I wasn't saved by the subject matter. The subject matter is sufficiently far away from me that I can retain my ego in a nice safe glass shell. So 1 out of 5. Okay, here we go. The moment of beauty. This is fragment 31, and this is the one about where she's jealous about the man and they're both pining after the same woman. He seems to me equal to gods, that man, whoever he is who opposite you sits and listens close to your sweet speaking and lovely laughing. Oh, it puts the heart in my chest on wings, for when I look at you, even a moment, no speaking is left in me. No, tongue breaks and thin fire is racing on the skin, and in eyes no sight, and drumming fills ears, and cold sweat holds me, and shaking grips me. All greener than grass I am, and dead, or almost I seem to me. But all is to be dared, because even a person of poverty cut. Ugh. Just when we're about to get the answer, we're cut away from it, and time has said, you don't get this part of Sappho. It's too good for you, you evil, dirty humans. Pathetic, you're not worth Sappho. And so the fates have not given us Sappho. Now, as you can see, Carson's verse is like totally protean. It changes and varies at will, but the thing is, it doesn't feel loose. The lines really feel inevitable. Like, unlike Latimore's verse in the Iliad, these lines, though they vary more than Latimore's, these lines feel much more implanted into the fabric of time. And another reason is because Anne Carson is so great at translating and imbuing the lines with English word music. You know, taking the word music from the Greek and somehow replicating it in English as these two descriptors of the woman. Or we take it from here. Whoever he is who opposite you sits and listens close. You know, that sits and listens close literally sounds like someone sitting in closer to listen. You got those two I's, then the sibilance of all the S's, and then you got the replication of the liquid L's that sits and listens close. It just, I don't know how to explain it, man. Anyway, it goes on to to your sweet speaking and lovely laughing. We get these perfect descriptors of this beautiful woman. Perfect word music. Suis, la la. And then in the third stanza that starts with the no, we get, as Carson says in the notes, what Longinus called, pure sublimity, for him anyway. And in this stanza we get like a complete lack of definite and indefinite articles. It's almost like a degeneration of language in which the sensations of what is happening come too quickly for the mind to add the or a to tongue, skin, fire, eye, and ears. The sensation of being overwhelmed by lust and also this deeper jealousy underneath it. This is what it feels like. And then more word music, and cold sweat holds me and shaking, grips me all, greener than grass. I mean, that's perfect. We have the cold, hold, and all. And then Sappho herself doesn't shake, but the shaking grips her. I mean, as if the shaking is an entity that's just come over her. And if you have ever had shaking fits, when you're doing a presentation in front of a class in school or in uni, and you're so nervous with public speaking that you get the shakes in the legs and your arms start shaking, you're not shaking, the shaking has gripped you, and it's almost an external entity to your consciousness, because you can't control the shaking. Once you start shaking, you're like, stop shaking, but you can't. And then we get the alliteration of grip, greener, and grass, and to be both greener than grass, like glowing with what nature has gifted you, of all the erotic sensations that nature has gifted you, glowing greener than grass, but to also be dead and have all of this fiery emotion inside of you, analogous to public speaking. And then for her to say, but all is to be dead, because even a person of poverty, like even though that is, you still go in. And I was so in love with this last line, and also so heart-wrenched by the fact that it isn't complete. I needed my closure, that I just added my own closure. Anyway, here's my rendering. But all is to be dead, because even a person of poverty has a cadaver and occasions to lose. Life, love, light, liquidity of self, all can void a vessel. Now, I've tried to replicate the Carsonianisms, the lack of commas and the lack of a comma or semicolon between clauses. And I feel like this overpowering alliteration, which would be unacceptable in any other occasion, here it makes it sound like I'm speaking in dot point. Now, for originality, I chose a part out of Sappho's whole poem because it's such a masterclass in irony. And I spent so long trying to figure out this poem because it seems to me it holds a secret, an irony-covered secret. It's basically a playful prayer to Aphrodite, begging her to not break her heart with hard pains, but to, come down and help her, make her unrequited love her back. But in the middle part of this poem, the narrative that Sappho weaves is when in times before Aphrodite had come to Sappho over and over again, always about Sappho's heartbreaks and about her love and unrequited love, because apparently there's been many. And there's this crazy switch in the middle of one of the lines where it goes from Sappho speaking to Aphrodite directly speaking. See if you can catch it. But you, O blessed one, smiled in your deathless face and asked what now again I have suffered and why now again I am calling out, and what I want to happen most of all in my crazy heart. Whom should I persuade now again to lead you back into her love? Who, O Sappho, is wronging you? For if she flees, soon she will pursue. If she refuses gifts, rather will she give them. If she does not love, soon she will love, even unwilling. Come to me now, loose me from hard care, and all my heart longs to accomplish. You, be my ally. Now it seems to me this poem is insanely subtle, and Carson notes the insane casualness that Aphrodite seems to speak with. But she mentions that there has been a long debate with scholiasts and academicians about how ironic and how serious is Sappho being. Is this a serious prayer to Aphrodite, or is she poking some fun at herself? But one of the deliciousnesses here are those now agains in the brackets. And so we get the sense that Sappho has suffered erotically a lot, and she's called out to Aphrodite a lot. And Sappho always calls out in the now, out of a present pain, and Aphrodite always comes to her in a kind of sense of, again, all right, again, here we are. And Aphrodite comes seeing the whole timeline of Sappho's suffering, which is why when Sappho herself starts talking at whom should I persuade now again to lead you back into her love? Who, oh, Sappho is wronging you. That's why she's so cheeky, poking fun at Sappho. But in this last part, something weird happens when at the last sentence Aphrodite speaks, which is, if she does not love, soon she will love, even unwilling. That's kind of sinister. And then Sappho now speaks in the present. Aphrodite was speaking in the past in a story Sappho was telling about how Aphrodite had helped her before. And let me just add a tiny bit of context. In the first stanza, when Sappho calls on Aphrodite, Sappho says, I beg you, do not break with hard pains, O lady, my heart. Do not break with hard pains, my heart. Remember this. Now in the last stanza, she says, come to me now, loose me from hard care, and all my heart longs to accomplish. Now that's weird, because we were expecting to hear, loose me from hard pain. Isn't Sappho in pain? But as we just heard from the last sentence, Aphrodite spoke herself, if she does not love, soon she will love, even unwilling. So perhaps now, already Sappho's beloved has been made to fall in love with her. And before, in Sappho's crazy state of erotic suffering, of unrequited love, she has been wishing for this one thing over and over again, and it's become a situation of be careful what you wish for. And that's why also Aphrodite has that wry kind of teasing. And that's why she says, who, oh, Sappho is wronging you? Maybe Sappho is wronging herself, because now we get Sappho saying, loose me from hard care. Oh, so has Sappho fallen out of love? And she has fallen out of love at the time when her beloved has fallen in love unwillingly with herself, Sappho. And now all Sappho can muster for her, because she's gotten what she wants. And this happens in reality over and over again. A boy, guy, or man will be striving after a girl, pining after a girl, and then once she reciprocates, he loses interest, right? So now all Sappho can muster up is care for her ex-beloved, because she doesn't want to hurt her, but she doesn't love her, so all she's left with is care. And here, Anne Carson's lack of punctuation lets the rest of the line be read two ways, and both ways can be read at once. When we first read it, that second clause, all my heart longs to accomplish, we think is loose me from all my heart longs to accomplish. But what's happening in reality is all my heart longs to accomplish is the start of a second clause, and that second clause is snapped into existence with that second accomplish. But this reinforces the reading of Sappho being in two minds about her state of love. She's hesitant now, because now she's got what she wants. So it's as if that last accomplish is added on with only half a heart, as if she says it like, loose me from hard care, and all my heart longs to accomplish. Like now she has to go through with it now, because that's what she wished for in the start. And then that makes that last sentence a kind of throwing her hands up in the air, as if to say, look what mess you've gotten me into now. You, be my ally? Jesus Christ, I thought you were supposed to help me out, Aphrodite. You know, that kind of vibe. With you be my ally, it seems Sappho is saying to Aphrodite, you know, make me fall in love again, or make me fall completely out of love. Anyway, the moment of wisdom. Easy two-line fragment, fragment 50. For the man who is beautiful is beautiful to see, but the good man will at once also beautiful be. Just some good old rhyming couplets with the Carsonianism of is beautiful, which is a nice repetition. And you probably already see it yourself, but what she's saying is plain. A philosopher might put it like this. It's nice to be optically beautiful, but it's better to be ontologically beautiful. Now, parts worth memorizing. That last one, wisdom, was pretty good, and the other two poems are also pretty good. But best of all, work, face, if not winter, no pains. I think that's just equally hilarious and profound. Anyway, bow score of this bad boy, bad girl. But, Now this is only because there's a handful of meaty poems. You know, I wanted a family pack meal. What I got was a happy meal. So because of that, it's going to be a 2 out of 5. That was SAPPHO's Fragments, less than, better than, or equal to our last book, Hesiod, Works and Days, and Theogony. It's better than, for sure, for sure. And I think that might be a controversial thing to say, but I mean, I think it's down to the translators. Anyway, I think I've nearly shot for 2 hours. This is insane. Anyway, next book. I don't know if I'm gonna survive till the end. The Fables of Aesop. And this one is with instructive applications because I got the translation by Samuel Croxell. Anyway, if any poor living soul got to the end of this review, hey, give us a like, give us a subscribe if you want. Do what you gotta do, and see you later. Oh my God.